Hello, Carolyn. How are you?
Hi, Nizam. How's it going?
It's going good, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interview you.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's good to be here with you.
And friends, we have Carolyn here. Carolyn is on a mission to remove all the trauma. We'll find out more about her mission. Such an amazing mission you're on, Carolyn, on this planet using elemental medicine, the power of consciousness to heal consciousness. After
That's
a
right.
lifelong journey of investigation, she was finally able to heal herself of cPTSD, chronic fatigue, toxicity, and shingles. As a certified emotion code practitioner, Carolyn accesses and reprograms the subconscious mind so transformation happens at the root and continues, not on the surface level, right, Karen? No
That's
surface level,
right.
just on the root. So transformation happens at the root and continues on autopilot. She relieves pain and illness without risky, invasive treatments or dangerous side effects. She especially loves activating healers and other change agents to amplify the spirit of love on the planet and anchor a planetary wide shift into heart-centered consciousness. That's that I love that. Heal the healers. Like
Yes.
healers have now they know whom to reach out to. So that's awesome. Like where you are. What I liked is Kevin, like addressing the root cause, not at the surface level, and
Yeah.
helping heal the healers is amazing.
Yeah. I like
That's
to say that healing is a team sport, right? There's a lot of different angles and aspects, and we are multi-dimensional beings with many layers to our body or bodies all put together. And
yes.
so addressing each of these layers of our body is important. And so there's different people who specialize in different angles to reach the root level of healing. So I think having a team of healers is really important, and knowing who to reach out to and what tools to use for that appropriate level that needs to be addressed of one's healing.
Amazing. And since you're emotion code certified practitioner as well, Carolyn, one of the topics that I intend to ask you. So before we get on to that's like what exactly do you mean by trapped emotions, Carolyn?
That's a great question. Yeah. So trapped emotions are really getting to that root level of healing that we were just talking about. And when an emotion is trapped in the body, it actually creates a blockage that doesn't allow energy to flow the way it should flow for well-being and health. And so the way an emotion gets trapped, this happens when we are experiencing an emotion, and the life of an emotion is typically 90 seconds, right? It's about a minute and a half of feeling an
Really?
emotion. Yeah, the most emotions don't last really that long, but if that process gets interrupted while it's happening, it can actually get trapped in the body as
Okay.
a blockage. So there's a number of ways that process gets interrupted. It can happen when the nature of the emotion is a really difficult or painful emotion that's challenging to sit with and feel. A lot of times when emotions are painful, we want to avoid it or stop it or get away from it, or we can't handle it in some way. So we might suppress it or or distract ourselves from
Okay.
feeling it, and that can
Binge
interrupt
eating,
that.
binge watching, etc., etc., etc.
Exactly, right. There's so many ways that can happen. And, everyone has certain emotions that are more difficult for them. For example, my hard emotion was anxiety. For a long time, anxiety was very, very hard for me to even know that I was feeling. And so it would build up in my body as a trapped emotion. And when an emotion gets trapped in the body that way, it becomes a pattern, like a program in the nervous system that repeats itself on loop, on like autopilot. And yeah, so which can be very problematic and painful, and it makes it very hard to soothe that emotion and to actually finish processing it. The body is like tripped up, it gets stuck on it like a broken record, right? And so so removing that trapped emotional energy is really important to restore the flow of energy and well-being that allows the body to function.
Wow. I think this should be taught in the psychology and psychiatric
Yes,
studies
I do
as well,
too.
Carolyn.
Wow.
I personally feel that.
Yeah, what a different world it would be if we were taught about our emotions and how to be with them in such a way that we can actually get the guidance and the lessons that our emotions are trying to give us. Because really that's what's happening when an emotion arises. It's feedback from our higher self, from our emotional guidance system, that is telling us information that we need to guide ourselves through life, right? So when we're acting and behaving and thinking in a way that is in alignment with who we really are and what our higher self wants for us, it feels good. We get positive feedback in the body. And when we're behaving and thinking in a way that is not aligned with what our higher self wants for us, with our highest well-being, we get feedback that tells us that we're straying off. Like anxiety, for example, is that kind of feedback. When you're giving your power away, your inner being is going to give you a signal that feels off. You get anxious, and that is telling you, hey, you need to correct course here, because you're not going to like the result of if you keep doing this thing, right? So if we don't listen to that feedback, if that gets trapped in the body, then it's hard to understand what our guidance system is trying to do for us. It can often feel like we're being punished or tortured, when really that's not the case. And we just didn't really understand that our emotional guidance system is trying to help us.
Okay. So you mean we are not listening to our emotional guidance system and then blame the results on everyone? Like partner, God, teachers, society. So guys,
Yeah.
please heal your own shit.
Yeah, that is actually very common, because our society is very outwardly fixated, right? We're not really guided or taught to be inner referencing, to listen to our inner healer and our inner being, which actually has much better guidance and answers for us. Oftentimes there's plenty of guidance we can get from the outside world, but there's a lot that can lead us astray also. So it's really important to at least have that inner reference to bounce ideas and verify what's going on in the outer world. Wow. So yeah, but we're unfortunately not focused in that way in our society.
Okay. So thank you very much for giving a basic idea. Now it makes clear that why people run away from facing their inner self and get into addictions and all sort of things as a distraction.
Yeah, yeah, addictions do stem from that avoidance of addressing oftentimes trapped emotions and painful energies that are there. It's uncomfortable to sit with because it feels like there's no resolution to it. So people try to numb out because they don't realize that there are actual tools to address those trapped emotions that are way more effective than numbing out with addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Carolyn, could you please help our audience like know how does one know if they have a trapped emotion?
Ah, that's a great question. Yeah, discerning the difference between a trapped emotion on one hand and then authentic emotional guidance that is arising spontaneously is part of the art of discernment and self-knowledge that I think develops over time, especially if you have a meditation practice or you get better at emotional intelligence, your EQ increases, you start to be able to discern the difference. And one of the really helpful ways that you can discern the difference, and again, it often takes life experience to know this, is trapped emotions because they're trapped in the body as a program that is hijacking your nervous system. And it's also a trapped emotion is connected to beliefs, right? So there's a story behind the trapped emotion. And that story will tend to repeat in very predictable patterns. It's like a loop. And so when you find yourself replaying an experience that feels really familiar, that's probably a trapped emotion. And the other way I mentioned before, trapped emotions don't soothe the way that sitting with an emotion and experiencing it, you know, when you experience the life of an emotion in your body, when you get to the end of that 90 seconds, there's a sense of like, oh, I know what to do now. I know what the next step is. There's some kind of, you know, feedback that you get from your higher self that brings soothing and relief. And there's that sense of information kind of being transmitted through your body. With a trapped emotion, you never feel like you get to the end of it. It just feels like it's unsoothable. It tends to create ruminating thoughts, like you obsess on these certain thoughts and ideas and you don't have a solution or an answer to it. So yeah, that the pattern and the repetition of the emotion coming up again and again and stories that repeat on loop, those are sure signs that you're dealing with a trapped emotion.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much for that clarity. Carolyn, I have seen some uh, other extreme of certain people who have trapped emotions, but they don't feel it. And they feel
Mm.
that they think that, yes, like, you know, I don't feel anything. I don't get angry and this and that. And at one point, something major incident happens in their life as a shock and they break, and they always
Yeah.
have this conflict. I am not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. So trapped emotion exists, but people who are not able to feel it. So what is the reason behind that? Could you please help that understand
Yeah, no,
such people as well?
that's a great question. And this phenomena stems from habits of not experiencing the emotions with one's body, right? A lot of times people think that they're feeling an emotion, but a lot of times we're intellectualizing
Okay.
our
Okay.
emotions, right? We're actually thinking about it. We're not in the body and feeling into the body and how the emotional experience on all the different levels of our body, right? So the mental level is one aspect of our body, but we also have our physical body, our emotional body, our etheric body or the energy body, and our spirit body, right? So there's like all these different levels that an emotion comes through us. And especially on the physical level, a lot of emotions are uncomfortable in the physical body, right? Anxiety doesn't feel good. A lot of times it creates a lot of tension in the chest, and emotions like disgust can make us feel nauseous, right? So there's can be some physical aspects of some of the more difficult emotions that are unpleasant. And so it's easy to develop a habit of avoiding our emotions by intellectualizing them and turning it into a thought instead of experiencing it, right? So and suppression is another common way that people deal with their emotions instead of experiencing them. With the difficult emotions, a lot of times as soon as it starts to arise, people will suppress it and keep it down and just avoid it altogether. And that is actually a sure recipe for getting a trapped emotion, which will need to be dealt with at some point. Oftentimes it can take a lot of that looping experience before someone realizes, oh, I'm feeling something, right? So yeah.
I'm sure, Callan, audience who are watching, who will be watching this recording, hey, I never met Carolyn, but how does she know about my story? How does she know about us? So because these emotions and people who are experiencing it, they can very much relate to what they are experiencing it. Now your explanation helps them to connect with, wow, now I get an idea what exactly I'm going through. Thank you very much for explaining and making it very simple.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for asking.
And Carolyn, okay, we spoke about what is trapped emotion. We spoke about how does one comes to know that they have a trapped emotion. Could you please tell how to remove them?
Sure, yeah.
Instantly,
So
instantly. 1 second. I get like I see people like just quick fix, quick fix, quick fix. I don't have time. Can I get over easily? So does that quick my first question is there a quick fix?
that's a good question. It is certainly faster than getting sick with a
Okay.
chronic illness.
Thank you.
Right?
That
So
was very amazing answer.
it's much more efficient to deal with trapped emotions or even emotions before they get trapped, right? So preventative treatment is always easier and faster than dealing with them once they manifest in the body as like a physical blockage and physical symptom. But it also depends on the individual and how
Exactly.
they process emotions and how old they are, because there's a lot of times a lot more layers if you've lived more life, right? People who are older have more trapped emotions than younger folks. And it depends on just how you deal with emotions in general. So the actual removal of trapped emotions is a pretty quick process. What I do is I locate the trapped emotion by talking to the body directly. So I ask the person's body if they have a trapped emotion on a certain subject, or if a certain symptom is connected to a trapped emotion. And then I use muscle testing to locate the exact trapped emotion. So I'm getting feedback between my body and the person I'm focusing on. And we are connected through consciousness, right? So because consciousness is oneness, we can connect, and our bodies are connected through this field of consciousness. And so I can locate trapped emotions by asking directly and listening to the feedback my body gets. So once I locate a trapped emotion, it's removed by using a magnet on the Meridian System. Okay. So the Meridian System is, rivers, currents of energy that flow throughout the body. And this is our subtle body, our etheric body. And it's the interface between our higher self, our energy body, and our emotional body and physical body. So this is a programming layer of our body. It holds memories and trapped emotions via the electromagnetic system of our body. That's the Meridian System, right? So we are electromagnetic beings. That's a big part of a component of our body, and it's the level that trapped emotions get trapped and form these programs that repeat on loop. So this story actually gets replayed via the electromagnetic body. And so by using a magnet on the Meridian System, what I do is I take your hand is actually a magnet. So you can even use your hand on the Meridian System. And what this does is it interrupts that programming. It trips up the programming in the same way that, like, if you put a magnet next to a credit card, people will say, don't put a magnet by your credit card because it will erase the credit card. It's the same idea with our bodies. We can reprogram the nervous system with magnets and interrupt that layer of programming and reprogram it with new commands. So that's the overall kind of general process.
Awesome. The reason why I was asking about the quick fix is thank you for clarifying. The older the person is, they have a lot of stories and stuff, and it all depends on how we process and heal it, Carolyn. Thank you for clarifying that as well, because there are different types of audience who will be watching this, so that's the reason I'm bringing up all sort of questions. And thank you very much for clarifying almost all questions for different level of audience. There could be some healer, there are some therapists, there are some just people who are new to healing. So thank you for addressing your answers at which fits for all levels. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
And now comes another question here, Calvin. What are your favorite trapped emotions to remove?
Well, I really got a lot of relief in my life clearing anxiety. That was how I healed PTSD that I struggled with for years, that actually escalated so intensely that I was getting panic attacks. And so I had a lot of anxiety built up, trapped in my body. So when I found this tool for releasing that anxiety, it really changed my life in a big way. And I understand the relief that comes for people who struggle with anxiety. So that's one of my favorites. I also really love removing heart wall emotions, because that was also a big part of the PTSD that I was experiencing. And heart wall emotions are a specific type of trapped emotion that basically gets built up around the heart as a shield when we go through really painful experiences. And the heart is so important and central to our being. It's a really big part of our emotional guidance system and our connection to source and our higher self. And so the body instinctively knows to protect the heart when we go through very challenging, painful experiences. And these layers of shielding, it's like armor around the heart. And as that armor builds up, it has a numbing effect on the heart that makes it difficult to feel that guidance that we need to feel in touch with our heart, with being able to receive the goodness of life, all the things that we want. When there's a wall built up, it disallows receiving love and abundance, basically. So removing those heart wall emotions is a massive relief. And it allows one to reconnect to the heart of who they are, to receive the guidance that they need to feel connected to source. And that for me was a big game changer as well. Removing my heart wall. I had a massive heart wall. I had a lot to work through. So it was a big relief for me, and I love doing that.
You yourself had been through a lot of shit.
Yes.
and you are not boasting that you were born clean, never had any emotion. You are here like, hey, see guys. You are. Thank you for transparency, Carolyn. That is what I am intending. Like people, like here, there's no someone who was born on and had a bed of roses, and then here they are to save you, and they are different. No, they had been through shit. They have healed themselves, and here they are helping to do the same with other people. So, Carolyn, just now you have mentioned that healing the heart walls gives such a great relief. Agree. That is the end result you are telling. But when people come to you, hey, let us talk about everything else, not this one. Don't go there, and you have to go there and peel all those layers and work that. How challenging it had been to you when you got started, and how it built. Could you please share your experience on helping people? You know that it gives relief, but that's the painful part, to let go what a person has constructed as a heart wall. So how was your experience helping people to dissolve those heart walls?
Oh, wow. It's so rewarding. That's a great question. One of the reasons why I love removing heart wall emotions is I love the results that people get. People report that they feel much more in touch with their inner being and their inner self. It's very common that after someone's heart wall is removed, they have a much easier time connecting with people, with others, and cultivating relationships, especially love and romantic relationships improve a lot when the heart wall is removed. If someone is having a hard time manifesting a relationship they want in their life, that's usually a sure sign that they have a heart wall. So I've had people meet the love of their life like 2 weeks after removing their heart wall, which is rare. Usually heart wall emotions take a little longer to integrate, but someone's whole orientation to life might shift as a result, because when you're in touch with your higher self and your heart, you get that guidance with a lot more clarity. And so it's not uncommon for people to make big life changes that are more in alignment with what they really want. People often report that they find it easier to manifest their mission and their purpose in life, and to feel more on track with what they really want, and they know what to do to make those changes. It becomes more instinctive and automatic. It's also common for one's intuition to become more clear, and just that inner knowing, without having to overthink things, becomes more automatic. And another thing that I notice is, I think the result of, or the reason that happens, is because the heart and the brain become more coherent when there's not a heart wall. So that like heart mind synchronization really helps with, just because the heart already knows what you want, right? But a lot of times, if the brain and the heart are not synchronized, we don't know how to go about getting what we want, or we struggle with the strategy of making it happen. So once that coherence happens, it's just like, oh, I just know what to do. So people just go straight to it, right? So it's really so rewarding to watch that happen, and to get messages from people like, oh, I just know what to do with my life now. My mission and my purpose is so clear. And that's what happened for me as well. So making that happen for others, I know exactly how that feels, and what a big relief it is. Yeah.
I'm sure. So now, thank you very much for bringing that example of someone found, after healing their heart wall, they found their romantic relationship within 2 weeks. So this reminds me of like people with unhealed heart walls now saying positive affirmations and all sort of things. Apart from healing their heart walls, how they are not getting results.
What's the question?
So what I'm saying is, now I got the insight that people who have unhealed or
Oh,
with
right,
huge heart walls, but trying all sort of things except healing
right.
their heart walls, like
Yeah.
just affirmations, positive thinking, reading the books, and going everywhere. Instead, healing the heart walls, how it is giving them results. It's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that the affirmations and all the strategies we have for healing are, it's not that they're not effective.
Yes.
It is important. It's just that that stuff can't get in if you have a blockage, right? It's like you can't fill a cup if there's a lid on it, right? You have to remove the lid and then pour the water, right? So it's that same idea, is people just get the order of operations of healing mixed up, and really removing the blockage is the first step so you can receive.
Yes. So that's the reason you have now have a mission on helping people with the root cause, not at the surface level.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Getting to that root,
Yeah.
removing the blockage. That's the key. Mhm.
Again, here comes a tricky question, Carolyn. Is there a way to avoid getting trapped emotions?
Yeah. Well, we went over that with fully experiencing your emotions in the body, right? So embracing your emotional and experience, and it can sound counterintuitive with the difficult emotions
Mhm.
that we don't want to feel, like fear, terror, panic, or some emotions are really hard to even know we're having them, like nervousness, for example. Sometimes you just feel nervous and get tense, and then we just immediately do something to interrupt that nervousness, right? So I think developing a meditation practice is very helpful for improving the ability to stay with an emotion and experience it fully, as the observer, right? Without intellectualizing the emotion or suppressing it. Meditation is so great for developing that mindfulness and vigilance with tuning into the body and the breath, right? So being able to follow the breath gives one a focus that they can just experience what's happening as the observer, right? Kind of neutrally from a 0 point kind of reference point. And that takes practice. It's a lifelong practice even, right? I think having a daily meditation practice, even just 5-10 minutes a day, does wonders for improving one's ability to process emotions through the body.
Carolyn, you are suggesting to process the emotions. There's so many shortcuts: alcohol, smoking, drugs, like quick fixes of that. But this isn't the true that it really needs a lot of practice, and people have this trouble to be with themselves, be with their emotion, and that's where, like, no, I don't want to experience it. Let me go for alcohol. Let me go for drugs. Let me go for this and that,
Yeah.
including uh, professionals who
Oh,
know
yeah.
this stuff, but they are not able to beat. So what I like is you are helping change makers also to process their emotions and make this world a better place.
Yeah, I love working with healers. They're some of my favorite because they also understand pretty instinctively the truth of what we're talking about. And so when it clicks, it's like, oh yeah, it becomes very obvious very quickly. And I love the ripple effect, knowing that a healer we're all healing, right? That's often why we become healers. But someone who does a healing as their mission and purpose in life is going to affect a lot of people in a healing way. And so that ripples out in unpredictable ways and miraculous ways. And so I love being tuned in with people that way, and knowing that my intentions are rippling out into the world in that way.
Awesome. Because the reason I brought that, it is easy to numb an emotion than to be with it. Like I liked what you mentioned as lifetime practice.
Yeah.
Not to give any illusionary suggestions. And also you said truth, that lifetime practice. Also you made it simple, like even 5 to 10 minutes of meditation every day also helps. Thank you for
Yeah.
bringing all the aspects of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to make set ourselves up for winning.
Yes.
Right? Don't set the bar too high, set it even low, because that's going to encourage you to want to do it more if you have success with your practice.
Amazing. Karen, that being said, could you please share what is your mission, and why is your mission so important to you?
Yeah. So my mission is to heal all the trauma on the planet. I think it's time. And there's a lot of misunderstandings in the world about trauma, the nature of trauma and emotions. And people just aren't taught how to handle emotional energy and trauma. And a lot of people are struggling and suffering because of that. And I think we are living in a time of great change and transformation. We are ripe. Humanity is ripe for awakening. Wow. And these issues are coming to a head because of that, because it's time. We're going through a dark night of the soul on a collective level, and anyone who's been through a personal dark night of the soul knows how intense that is, and the importance of crossing that, making that journey and getting to the other shore it's a process. And so I really feel like it's my mission and purpose to facilitate that process, to help this rebirthing experience that humanity's going through. And I experienced it myself in my own life. And I think that's what prepared me to do my mission and to understand what's happening in the larger picture. So as painful as it is, I know and trust that it has a really beautiful and useful intention behind it, that sometimes we have to go through that pain and be willing to embrace it, to be cracked open into a deeper understanding of ourselves. And humanity is at that point now where we can't continue with the dysfunction that we've been living on a massive scale. And so we're having this very cathartic purging experience where all that dysfunction is coming to a head, for us to really look at it consciously, to become conscious and aware of what's going on, and to make a new choice, to make a different decision about how we move forward and handle it. And that does require, again, sitting with the emotions so that it transforms, right? So that we are transformed through the experience.
I notice one thing. You are emphasizing be with your emotions and process them. Sit with your emotions and process them. Like now I'm sure when your clients comes and share these stories, I know I had been there. I also know how it feels like once it is healed, and that's the reason when you said it feels good when you listen to a lot of transformational stories of all kinds.
Yeah.
And your mission is amazing. May this spread across all over, and
Yeah.
let make this planet Earth a safe place and better place to live. Such a beautiful mission, Carolyn, you have. And what is this elemental medicine all about, Carolyn?
Yeah, so my business is called Elementalmedic. I identify myself as a medic of sorts, as one who responds to pain, suffering, and imbalance with elemental medicine, which is the kind of the bucket of tools that I use that are based on spiritual technology, on the power of consciousness to heal consciousness. And I think it's important to address, as I mentioned earlier, address all the different levels of our body, which are symbolized through the elements: fire, earth, air, water, ether, right? So, and these correlate to our spirit, our mental body, our etheric electromagnetic body, our emotional body, and physical body. So elemental medicine is a system of tools that I use to address the appropriate layer that is imbalanced.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and again, that I ascertain what level the imbalance needs to be corrected by talking to the body and using that power of consciousness, our oneness and connection, to speak the body's language, right? So I think we can know anything about the body by listening to it directly. And people have kind of lost touch with that because the systems of medicine and what we've been taught about healing have really led us astray, right? So a lot of people don't even believe in cures anymore. People think that symptom management is the best we got out there. And that's simply not true. There's there are real cures that exist, and there's stories of miraculous healing and amazing capacities of the body that abound if you know where to look and are open to listening. So yeah, that's elemental medicine, and it's tools like things I've mentioned, meditation. I use herbs a lot in my practice, essential oils, and also, recommending practices like earthing, connecting because the earth is a giant magnet, and we are electromagnetic. So charging up our magnetic field is an important aspect of having our etheric body function properly. A lot of people aren't aware of this, but it's very simple tools that when you implement them have a profound effect on the body. So yeah, hydrotherapy is another one, using water to heal. Movement and body work, which is why I love working with other healers, because body workers are very important for integrating this emotional work that I do. So I noticed that people who integrate other tools into their toolkit get better results because they're addressing all these different levels of their body.
In a nutshell, what I understand is you're helping people to go back to the nature, to get close with the nature.
Yeah,
Elements and all that.
Yes, very much. Yeah, that's what the stuff we're made of, right? This is what Creator gave us these tools, and we're the fact that we exist and we can connect on these levels is evidence of the miraculousness of creation, right? So why not use these amazing tools?
Yes.
If we're using them in the right way, there's nothing that we can't heal, that we can't address and bring back into wholeness.
Amazing. And you are emphasizing that we are much more than this physical body.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I came to this realization at a pretty young age when I had a near-death experience that really put me in touch with a very different level of my consciousness as a necessity. I didn't know that aspect of myself existed before I had this near-death experience, and I was not the same afterwards. So,
oh my God.
So yeah.
So could you please share more about the near-death experience? I'm curious to know more about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was 18 years old, I was growing up in Southern California, where it is often very sunny and nice in January in the winter. And my birthday's in January. And so I turned 18, and I had always wanted to go backpacking.
Okay.
And I had a couple of friends who shared this interest with me, and we were kind of waiting for an excuse to go backpacking. And so when I had my birthday, I was like, I'm 18 now. I can do whatever I want. So let's go backpacking. And my friend at the time, Mike, he had a topography map of Ojai, and he was trying to learn about topography. So he was like, oh, let's go. He had this whole kind of backpacking route planned out. And so we were like, great, let's do this. We had cobbled together some backpacking gear that we got at a thrift store at the time. We were utterly unexperienced. Let me just put that out there. We did not know what we were doing, but we thought we did, right, from reading books and hearing stories. And so when we drove out to Ojai and we went out to this remote location, it was really nice out. It seemed like it was going to be a sunny weekend. And we were doing a very long trek. It was probably like a 30-mile loop that we were doing in over like 3 days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we were going on a walkabout, and the first night was super amazing. We hiked out to a hot spring and we were under the stars and we felt like we were in heaven. It was amazing. The second day we started hiking in, and we did get deep into the backcountry in Ojai.
Okay.
We got to an amazing location that also had like a hot spring river and this beautiful canyon, and we were soaking in the hot spring under the stars. And it rained that night.
Wow. Okay.
And you were like, we didn't really plan for rain. We're not prepared at all for rain. We thought it was going to be sunny the whole weekend. And so it was definitely nerve-wracking. And that night, it rained hard. And so when we woke up in the morning, all our stuff was soaking wet. We were wet. We didn't have rain gear.
Did you guys sleep at least?
What's that?
Did you guys sleep? Because it was raining whole night. Did you get to sleep, or you were awake whole night?
We did. We had a tent.
Okay.
But it got all wet in the night, and it was definitely a rough night. We woke up early.
Okay.
Probably at dawn, this is not fun anymore. And we were kind of faced with the decision. We could either turn back and go out the way we came, or we could finish this epic hike that my friend had planned for us and venture into unknown territory, kind of keep moving forward. I don't know why we thought this was a good idea, but we were like, we didn't want to go back the way we came, and we wanted to finish the loop. We were kind of stubborn about it, I guess. And so we were like, okay, we're gonna just press onward and we'll go as fast as we can. We were kind of aiming to try to pick up the pace to hopefully finish the trip sooner. So we kept pressing on, and we got a good lesson in topography, because if we had been following that map, we would not have chosen the route that we did. However, we continued to hike in elevation, and very stubbornly, the elevation kept going up and up. And we had been pressing on for quite a while, I think because we didn't want to turn around for some reason. So, but as we got to the top of this, it was a mountain that we were climbing, it began to snow. And we were already soaking wet.
First rain, then snow.
So it went from bad to worse. And by this point, I was freezing cold. I was turning like green and white and purple. And I had never been that cold in my life, with no hope of getting warm. And so we got to the top of the peak. At the top of the peak, we were basically in a blizzard. It was like a full snowstorm. And we were looking around and we were like, what are we going to do? Because we didn't have, even our matches were wet. Everything we had was wet. We couldn't make a fire. We were in the snow. And it really hit me, like this realization came over me. Like, if I don't get warm, soon I'm gonna die. Like I was already getting frostbite. Like I was not in good shape at all. And when that realization hit me, it was like something completely took over. My mind dropped away, like my ego just fell away. Any voice of debate or questioning just went away. I became pure willpower. It was like this superhuman force came through me, and this voice came through and was like, you need to go this way. It basically was like, go here. And
You could literally listen to that voice.
Yes, and I just started doing what this voice told me to do. And my friends were like, what are you doing? Like they, up until that point, I had been straggling behind them. And then when this voice took over, they had a hard time keeping up with me because I just beelined in this direction. Okay. And I just started hiking with this superhero power coursing through me. I must have been full of a lot of adrenaline at this point. And I don't even know how, it was like time went away. There was no sense of time. There was no sense of me being even like an individual person. It was like I was a force of nature. And I knew exactly what to do and where to go. And this voice guided me to, we basically hiked and came to this field that opened up. And I remember being able to see across the field, way off in the distance, there was a little cabin, like a tiny house. Okay. And I was like, that's it. That's what's going to save me. And so we beeline for this little cabin. I think it was someone's like summer cabin. It was all locked up. It was impenetrable. We couldn't get into the cabin, but off to the side of the cabin, there was a barn. It was a pretty big barn. And we actually managed to break into this barn, and it was dry inside the barn. Yeah. So once we got into the barn, there was dry wood in there. And I think we were able to get one of the lighters working. Somehow we made a fire, and having that the kindling and straw in the barn is what saved us, because everything else was wet and covered with snow. And we spent the night in that barn. And that was the biggest sense of relief I've ever felt in my life, was getting to that barn. And we in our excitement to get dry and have a fire, we did set up our shoes around the fire, and actually I melted my shoes around the fire. So that became another challenge the next day. Luckily, I had a backup pair of Tevas, those like hiking sandals, that I ended up hiking out in sandals, basically. But I'll never forget that sunrise the next day when I woke up that morning and watched the sunrise. It stopped snowing, thank God. And everything was white. It was the most pure and pristine backcountry vision of whiteness. Oh. And that golden sunrise and this sense of gratitude for being alive, and for that guidance that I received was so profound. I was so in awe that there was something in me that knew exactly what to do, and took over in that way, and it
Back to in
filled me.
certain challenging situation.
Yeah, it was required in the
Yeah.
situation. I never would have willingly chosen that, but
Yeah.
it was forced out of me, and I somehow rose to the challenge. And it really showed me that we're more than a physical body. Having that firsthand experience of, it was like the voice of God guiding me, right? Having my higher self step in and direct me, and surrendering to that so completely, it really set me on my path in life. I didn't know it at the time, but I think that I did orchestrate that as an initiation experience for myself, not consciously, but it did function in that way. It initiated me into a much deeper level of being that awakened my mission and purpose in life, and showed me that there's so much more that we're capable of than we think, or that we even know.
Wow, that's an awesome experience. Just turned 18, went on to hike, and all this rain and snow. I'm like, wow, amazing. Like,
Yeah.
just if we think logically, it doesn't make sense. Like, what is this girl doing? Like,
No.
suddenly going somewhere, and that too leading her friends.
It was pretty comical. And what's even crazier is we were so motivated to get out of there the next day because of this whole experience, that we ended up just pressing on forward with the plan, which ended up, it was like 17 miles that we hiked in one day to get out of there. Which, again, I had no idea that I was physically capable of doing that, of backpacking 17 miles in the snow in sandals, because I had burned
already wet.
Yes. Well, we did manage to get dry enough through the night that the next day hiking out was it was more comfortable than being soaking wet the way we had been. And it stopped snowing, thank goodness. So we weren't dealing with the elements, but somehow we were in this freak snowstorm at that time to have this experience, and then it just blew over like as quickly as it came through, and then it was like sunny again. But we were also at an elevation at that point. I think that, I guess, that happens in the winter.
After this incident, did you had this like logically, like, what the hell was it? What did I do? Like, what happened?
Oh yeah. I mean, that experience has stayed with me throughout my whole life, because it was such a pivotal and peak experience. Really, at the end of the day, it was a peak experience, even though going through it was terrifying and it didn't feel like a peak experience. But looking back on it in hindsight, it was because, especially that next morning, I had never felt such a sense of grace, divine grace, and holiness in my life. That feeling never left me as well, of being so in touch with the divine. And it also showed me what happens when you're facing death, right? Like, the things that were going through my mind as before the superhuman thing took over, but when I was starting to get scared and realizing what was happening, and realizing the severity of the situation, the things that you think about when you're facing death are you don't care about the stuff you have. You're not
Yes.
thinking even about your career or your job
Yes.
or anything like that. You're thinking about the people that you love, right? You're thinking about, do the people I know, that I love, know how much I love them? Am I living? Has my life been meaningful? Have I been living in such a way that I'm ready to die? Right? Like,
Oh my.
things become very real in those moments, and it really reoriented my priority list.
Yeah.
Right? It made me understand what's important in life, and to prioritize those things accordingly. So yeah, it was a peak experience in that sense. It really put me in touch with what's important, with my mission, and with God.
Like all the materialistic things took
Yeah, that
went
goes to
down
the
and
bottom
then-
of the list. Yeah.
That too, for an 18-year-old girl, this experience happens, and how her rest of the life shapes was amazing. So
Yeah.
one question, Carolyn, like you spoke about the divine grace and receiving the message, and you felt grateful. So
Yeah.
is it this divine grace and the support and the guidance you are talking about? Is it available to everyone on the planet Earth,
Yes.
or is it only for chosen persons like Carol?
No.
Everyone
It's
gets this because some feel like, no, they are fortunate. It is not for me. I am not meant for this, etc., etc. Because of the heart walls, they speak all this. That's the reason I'm asking: is this grace available to everyone?
That's a good question. I believe it is available to everyone because we are all created from divinity, from the divine spark of creation is in all of us. And that is the human, we're beneficiaries of that as humans. I do think that everyone is at a different place in their journey of realizing that and having experiences that bring it out of us, right? So there can be many layers that obscure the conscious realization of divinity as a felt sense in our body and our experience. I don't know, for some reason I was ready to have that experience.
Yes.
I definitely called it in. And I notice with a lot of my clients, they seem to be also on the verge of having these kinds of experiences. A lot of times a healing crisis or facing death or the reality of our mortality, brings these energies to the surface and forces us to heal the blockages that are preventing us from knowing who we really are and our divine connection. So it depends on where people are at in their journey.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that again. And thank you. Because, as this conversation builds how beautiful life is and how much more we are than what we think, and the importance of inner work, yet one logical question, Carolyn. Why do people think it is hard to heal?
That's a great question. I think it's because of how we're brought up and the nature of society, and the conditioning is very thick. There's a lot of density to this physical realm that we live in. There's a lot of history of misinformation, and there's I think there are certain forces in nature that create natural resistance, right? We learn through positive and negative experiences. And the negative experiences summon out of us the deeper levels of our consciousness, and that they're harder to access. And so a lot of times we have to go through a lot of pain or suffering in order to summon enough presence power and willpower to want to heal and to access our miraculous divine powers of healing, and to call in divine grace. And then we also are not taught this stuff. It's not readily apparent, right? A lot of history about our true roots of healing have been obscured or altered or tampered with, because there's, certain elements in society that profit off of us being sick, right? So there's this kind of force that we're contending with there of, there's an actual incentive in the world for us to not heal and to not know how to take healing into our own hands. So people become very dependent on others and outside systems. And these systems don't have our best intentions in mind because of the profit motive. So yeah, there's a lot of aspects to this. This is a very deep conversation in itself.
Yes.
But yeah, in a nutshell, I think people have lost touch with their belief in healing and with faith in the body's miraculous power to heal. So getting back in touch, it starts with the belief, right? If you don't believe something's possible, you won't even try. But if you spend time around healers or around people who have healed themselves, and you make it a point to immerse yourself in information that empowers healing and strengthens your belief in your body's capacity to heal, this all becomes much more possible and reachable.
Wow, awesome. Okay, so I have this question, like, how is your work different from allopathic work?
Oh, I think it's light years different.
Light years.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the profit motive is on healing. If I don't get healing results for my clients, I won't get more clients. So
yes,
that right there is a very different approach. And I call that distinction the difference between being a profiteer and a curist, right? So I believe in cures. I believe that cures are possible, and that if we heal at the root of healing, that we can have long-term resolution to our symptoms and recover our wholeness, right? So this requires addressing the ecology of healing, is what I call it, right? Again, the different levels of the body, and addressing lifestyle. What your lifestyle that you're living is part of this ecology of healing. And that's a really important aspect of truly getting to the root, is, having a diet and environment that supports the body's healing. So the allopathic paradigm is primarily relying on drugs and chemicals as a kind of cure-all, or really it's symptom relief, right? So it's not addressing the roots of healing. It's addressing symptoms, and that is more profitable, right? If I can sell you something that you're going to keep coming back for and are dependent on
repeatedly,
yeah, that's actually from a business point of view, you know, a better kind of business model. So I've really departed from that paradigm completely. And I think it really works against a person to be codependent on outer person or thing and think that that's going to solve their problem. It might bring some temporary relief that can allow one to find other tools to get to the root. And I don't discount that in certain situations that can be helpful. But if you don't develop the tools and get to the root of healing, that can actually really set one back as well in creating dependency and you know, dangerous side effects that result from that dependency.
So Carolyn, thank you very much. From what is trapped emotions to how it is different from allopathic, you have answered all my questions patiently and very deep level. I promise this is my last question. How did you choose your name, Carolyn?
By the elements and wanting to put people in touch with that awareness of nature and addressing the different levels of the body, and being a medic, someone who responds to the pain and suffering of others using consciousness.
Wow. Thank you once again for your time, and it was such a deep conversation. And especially the major thing I loved is the experience this 18-year-old girl has gone through. That is amazing, and like still with the stubbornness, how you went ahead and completed it, and the guidance that you have received, and it pretty much reflects with what you are doing, and
Yeah.
just going ahead with whatever is coming up, and going ahead and dealing with the challenges, helping people to do the same. That's awesome, and your mission is amazing, Carolyn. And thank you once again for your time, and it was lovely talking to you.
Thank you, Nisam. I really appreciate the opportunity to share all this information with
And-
you and your wonderful questions. Thank you for what you're doing.
Yes, and friends, as a last thing, what I'm the purpose to interview all these experts on these interviews is like you are not alone. You don't have to go through the suffering and all that shit. You
Yeah.
have help available. Many
Yeah.
experts here. So in the YouTube description below this interview, all the contact details of Carolyn will be made available. You can reach out, and please, you can avoid years of suffering because help is available.
Yeah.
You don't have to suffer.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's so
Thank you.
important for people to understand. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you once again, Carolyn. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.